Good morning. I'm back listening to Barack Obama rap Panda, which is a sign of things to come. It's hilarious. Gotta check it out. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming back. I love your attention. Fuels me. All that good stuff. So today we're gonna talk about how Panda and Desiigner is bringing New York hip hop back. That's right. A lot of people hating on the young boy. He's doing well, but he represents a new day in hip hop, a day in which New York has been resurrected, will be resurrected, especially if other New York rappers follow suit. So that's what this video is about. It's going to show how Desiigner and Panda is bringing New York hip hop back through the sound of the South, which is the only way that it can happen. So with that, I want to say that brief context. The reason why I say Desiigner and Panda is bringing New York hip hop back is because if you look at the lyrics of Panda, right, it's not just him screaming Panda. If you look at the actual lyrics, it's a heavy, heavy code for a lot of different things. And if you know rap music, if you know hip hop, one of the major things in rap is language. Anytime a culture is created, or anytime a genre is created, it has certain tenets and aspects that's associated with it. Style of dress, it could be commerce, and primarily language. So you could tell a culture or community, even a genre of music, by the language that it has. And hip hop has always been known for its distinct language, its coded language, and it's always been a language that has always covered and described what's going on in the streets. So since its beginning, hip-hop language has always been something that's been representative of a code and kind of a secret language to those people that participate or live in what's called the hood or the streets or urban environments. And typically, they're the only ones that understand this language. So if you don't have access, or live in the streets or the hood or these urban environments, you don't really know what the language means. Now, as hip hop became the dominant genre of music, the language has gotten more widespread. You see it in commercials. You see people that don't live in the streets or the hood actually have access and use the lingo like it's regular, lexicon. So being that that's the case, Desiigner, this song right here represents one of the first times in many in which people don't actually understand what the lyrics are. Now, a lot of that could be said for a lot of, I guess, this is no disrespect, Southern rappers because of the drawl. But this is more than just the drawl. This is the cadence, the speed in which he's rapping it, and also the word choice that he's using. So the whole fact that the name of the song is called Panda, and obviously Panda is the, white on black X6 BMW. But it's more than just the hook. But I want to trace this back. The reason why this is important is because a lot of people are saying that he sounds like Future, and that his style is like Future, yada yada yada. And I have to say that that's a short-sighted analysis. Panda and Desiigner is able to come out for two reasons. One, Brooklyn culture, in which if you see his lyrics, it's all Brooklyn, period. That's a straight Brooklyn song. I don't care how it sounds or what the way the song comes across, the beat, that's a straight Brooklyn song. That's one. Two, the reason why Panda has to be like it is because of Atlanta. Now, I say controversy. Atlanta has been the dominant force for hip hop music for 20 years. Some people dispute, from 95 to 2000. But if you look at everything that's relevant now, if you look at the whole rise of Southern hip hop, all of that didn't start in 2000. It started in 1990, really 95 or before that. Brief History of Atlanta, Arrested Development came out, I think 92. Right? I believe they have a Grammy. That's Atlanta. Crisscross came out same time. I believe they have a Grammy, if I'm not mistaken. #1 songs, #1 albums. So all of that was setting the scene for another place to be dominant outside of New York, because obviously New York is the dominant place for rap music. It's the home, it's the birth. But due to Atlanta, Atlanta has the most success in rappers. The Atlanta, Georgia family tree is the biggest in hip hop. It's bigger than Cali, it's bigger than the Midwest, and it's even bigger than New York. And I'm going to explain why I say that. A lot of that started to take place with the Dungeon family. And the reason why Desiigner and Panda has to have the delivery that it has, why it has to sound like an Atlanta sound, not a future Atlanta sound, is because Atlanta was the capital of Southern hip hop. New York is the capital of hip hop in general. Atlanta is the capital of Southern hip hop. And for a long, long time, Southern hip hop has been the predominant wave for rap music, period. The sound, the influence, even to the point where now across the country, the sound that you hear and have heard has been Southern. So the South has taken a leadership position in rap music, which makes sense. Anytime a culture, anytime a genre of music, or anytime something is created, creation in general, if it becomes mainstream and popular, it has to take root to the different regions where its members participate. Hip hop music is something that was started by black people, you know what I'm saying, Spanish people as well, by root of struggle, by root of hoods and streets, poverty. And anytime you have something that's born of a particular type of energy, it's going to resonate with people no matter what region they're from. So even though New York hip hop started in New York, the nature of hip hop and the energy of hip hop resonates around the world. So anywhere there's hoods, anywhere there's streets, or anywhere where there's people struggling, hip hop is going to take form. So hip hop was a baby that was created by New York, and it went around the world. And as it went to these different regions, it took on its own personality and its own character. Now, thanks to Desiigner, it's actually coming back home where, you know, it originated. And it could only do that if it represents the voice of the place where it's been dominant, and that's the South. And the reason why I say that is this. If you look at the lyrics of Panda and Desiigner, it's not future-like at all, actually. It actually, the best way you could compare Panda or Desiigner to anything is if you take it back before Future, if you take it back to Young Dro. Young Dro, obviously, is an artist that's down with T.I. He's on the Grand Hustle label. And dare I say that that might be the first song where you can actually see a Southern artist actually code his, actually T.I. and Grand Hustle. I think they were the first ones to actually have heavy lyricism, and actually code different street lingo and metaphors so heavily. And why do I say that? If you look at the song Shoulder Lean, right? Shoulder Lean, I think, has more comparison to Desiigner's Panda than any Future song. For instance, there's a verse in Shoulder Lean by Young Dro, and he mentions something like a lima bean 6, right? If you look at that whole song, it's coded the same way Panda's is. A lima bean 6 is a green colored car, the color of lima bean, the 6, you know, just like Panda is a car, the color of the car. So that type of metaphors, the closest song that you can compare it to is Young Dro. There's another verse where it says suicide doors open and the Rover looks like pork and beans. That's the Range Rover, looks like pork and beans. It has the same imagery and the same similarity as Panda. So Desiigner represents the coming back of New York, but that's something that started from Grand Hustle, T.I., and Young Dro. And if you trace back the type of lyrics and the type of metaphors and the type of coded street language, you'll see that a lot of that started in hip hop in general, but in terms of the Southern drawl, in terms of the description of cars and things like that, and different types of drug use, that's something that came from the South, and that's something that came from it became bigger with Grand Hustle. So I suggest people go look and do that comparison between Panda and Desiigner and the song with Young Dro. Now that's important because the only way hip hop can be brought back to New York is if someone takes the lingo and the mannerisms of where hip hop is now predominant. If the South was a predominant sound for the last few years, last few decades, it only makes sense that anyone that wants to bring it back has to take on the mannerisms, the characteristics, the lingo, and a lot of the gestures of where it currently reigns supreme. And if that's the South, which is the South being Atlanta primarily, then Panda is right on time. And why is that? How is that evident? I believe Desiigner's song Panda was the first American rap song on a #1 on the billboards after 41 weeks, which means for the last 41 weeks, that's almost a year, there has not been an American chart #1 at all. It's all been international. So I'm going to read a few stats about Panda and why this is going to be the new influence. You're going to start seeing more rappers from other places, even New York, that's going to be adopting this lingo, but it's going to be a new way of speaking, a new language. And it's no coincidence that Desiigner's new album is called New English, because there has to be a new way to speak. In order for rap to change, you have to start changing the different aspects of it. You're already seeing the style of dress change. You're starting to see a whole new wave of hip hop with the web series, and now language is next. The whole way we speak, the whole way we rap is now going to be completely different. And that's why you have the birth of things like Rap Genius, which annotates different lyrics, simply because rap is evolving. And Desiigner represents the evolving of rap. Now, some people might hate because of the content and things like that, but the power of any culture is in its language. And if people took heed, they will see that looking at Desiigner's song, they can actually use that song to actually code different activities. A lot of time, hip hop, the language is a code for street activity. You know, anytime you do something in the streets, you know, the main thing is to avoid getting caught. And language is a big factor to that. Not being able to understand how people communicate, it scrambles people that are trying to catch you doing something that supposedly you're not supposed to be doing. And the song Panda represents that. That whole song is coded language, talking about credit card scams, cars, hustling out of vacant buildings. The whole song represents code. And that kind of code and hustling was predominantly given through Atlanta, because New Yorkers are straight up with it. You know, you listen to Jay-Z, there's a little wordplay, but, you know, for the most part, it's direct. But the whole idea of trap music and trapping, that's an Atlanta thing. And that was made to the mainstream by T.I. Now, there was other trap artists before T.I., but in terms of making it popular, that's T.I. And if you look at the language and the way T.I. and Grand Hustle rap, all they did was code how they sold drugs. There's another verse in the Young Dro song where he says, "There's a drought on that boy, so I bring that girl in." Basically, boy and girl are different types of drugs. We won't get too detailed into it, but there's a drought on that boy. So that the boy, there's one type of drug that's not pumping anymore. It's hard to get. It's a drought, kind of like rain. So I bring that girl in, that coke in. So that is code, you know, that's street language. And as Desiigner gets more popular and time goes on, you're going to start seeing a whole different way of listening to music. You're going to have to train your ears. You're going to have to actually come up with a dictionary, because you're not going to be able to understand what's going on unless you retune how you listen to these words. And Panda represents that. So if other rappers take heed, and if people take heed in general, they actually can use it as a whole new way of speaking and communicating, and communicating in ways in which other people can't decipher. This is high-level stuff. And people might not see it because of the way, you know, he's energetic, he's moving around, they just see him dancing and having fun, but a lot of the deliveries and the word choices that he uses are very heavy and very coded. And this is going to be the new way to present your rap music. And if people don't take heed, it's not going to be successful. And even a regular person, it's going to redefine how we speak and how we talk. And this is already showing by the rewards that he's getting. So just here's a few stats on Desiigner. I already said he's the first one to break the 41-week record on the Hot 100 after all international artists. What else? He's the first U.S.-born act to lead the list since July 25th, 2015, when Wiz Khalifa did it. Desiigner also ends a 41-week streak between rap songs atop the Hot 100. Desiigner is the first rapper to crown the Hot 100 with a debut chart entry since Iggy Azalea arrived with Fancy in 2014. The last male rapper to do that prior to him was Wiz Khalifa with Black and Yellow in 2011, and before him, Vanilla Ice. Desiigner is 18 years and 11 months old. He'll turn 19 on May 3rd. That makes him the youngest male artist to top the Hot 100 since Chris Brown was 18 years old back in 2007. Desiigner is the youngest artist to reign since Lorde, who was 16 years and 11 months old when Royals assumed the throne in 2013. So already this is a shift. This is, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not reaching, this is history in the making. You're watching the redefinition of rap music. You're watching the redefinition of hip-hop. And this is because this person was the first person to truly take the mannerisms of where hip-hop reigns supreme, which is the South, which is Atlanta, and take it and put it in a language that represents the birthplace of hip-hop, which is New York. He was the first person to merge both capitals of rap music, Atlanta and New York, into one setting. And for that, he's breaking these records, and he is charting the charts like he's doing. So this is representing a big point in rap. Rap as we know it is dead. So it's going to be a new rap. And the fact that this album is New English is something to pay attention to. It's going to affect the way we speak, period. We're not even going to be able, like I said, to hear songs the same way. So this is very, very crucial. So I wanted to make this video to kind of chart that. But you can see the seeds of this. And if you go back, listen to Young Dro, listen to that song Shoulder Lean, you'll see that this is the closest song to Panda out of anything that came out, period. So the seeds for this New English was being given years ago, you know? It just had to happen now. It's time for another place to reign supreme, a new voice. And now it has to be New York, period, for things to change. So I wanted to make this video to show that and to see that New English is more than just an album cover. It's going to affect the way we communicate with each other. It's going to affect the way our children hear music, because it's already doing that. So, you know, I suggest we retune our ears, pay more attention to these words, because what's going to come out from this young man is going to be a lot. He's going to be speaking a whole lot of things that's going to reflect the times that we're in, where I don't even think he realizes it. Sometimes when it comes to creativity and music and art, it comes from places that we're not aware of. It comes from a spiritual place. So there's going to be a lot of things speaking from this gentleman that we're not aware of. So we need to pay attention, do a little homework, and then you're going to see that this is going to actually affect a lot of social change with things that's going on, because it's going to be a lot of code in the way people operate. And in order to affect change, sometimes and fight what's wrong, you have to actually speak in a way to which only those that are initiated understand. So with that, thank you for tuning in again, and stay tuned for the next video, and I appreciate your time. Peace.